In this video, I want to break down the simple webinar presentation structure that I'm using in 2025 to bank more than 100K per webinar campaign. So let me jump right into the first one, the first part of your presentation, which I call an Intrigue Open. So this is the first few minutes of a webinar when I'm doing a live presentation. I'll usually start close to the top of the hour or a few minutes after. I'll restate the headline of the webinar, and then I'll go through what I call the intrigue agenda, right? So we want to hook them in early by grabbing their attention, by sharing what I call benefit bullets. So it might be something like this. Like in this presentation, I'm going to share a revolutionary new AI strategy that's doing this in this amount of time. I'm going to break down a 5-part framework that's going to help you solve this problem without all these things you don't like. And I'm going to be doing some on-screen demonstrations, et cetera, et cetera. We want to hook them in early. A common mistake people make is they just start with a boring kind of agenda slide. We want to hook them in, get them excited for what they're about to learn. And then the second part of the Intrigue Open is to tell a very brief micro story of the problem that you had and hint at the solution that you're about to share. So we want to open a lot of intrigue early. Tell a very short 1-minute micro story, go through the agendas, hook them in with those benefit bullets. And in the first, literally that'll take you less than 3 minutes in your presentation. You'll be off to a great start, getting people excited for what they're about to learn, and you'll get people to stay on longer in order to close those loops. So that works very, very well. That's what I'm doing in 2025. Now, the second piece of the presentation is what I call framing the new opportunity. And this is a common thing that many people miss when it comes to their webinars or their sales presentations. They just kind of jump right into teaching without properly setting the stage, without doing what I call framing the opportunity. And that's really what your webinar should be about. You're really showing people a new opportunity, a new path forward. And so we want to set the stage for that. And we do that using what I call the 3 Ds. We want to talk about their desires, pivot to their difficulties in getting to those desires, and then again, seed the discovery you're about to share with them. And this can be done, those 3 Ds can be done again in another 2 to 3 minutes up front. Doesn't have to go on and on. Talk about their desires, pivot to their difficulties, and then talk about the discovery or hint at the discovery. Again, opening another loop early on. And I find this to be a very effective framework for me. It feels good. I like to lead with their desires. Many of you on here know what it would be, that it would be awesome to do X, Y, and Z. But like many people, you've probably tried this and not done well, or you're struggling with this. Well, what I've discovered is a way to get the result without this using this. And that's sort of the framework, the 3D framework that I'm using early on in my presentations to, again, set the stage. We need to give people enough context as to why they should care about what you're about to share with them. Don't go on and on about it, but we need to frame the situation. We need to set the stage early. And we do that with those 3 Ds and by framing the opportunity, right? So we talked about the Intrigue Open, framing the new opportunity. Then we want to tell the third piece, which is what I call a discovery story. So again, stories are important in webinars. We have a micro story up front. We hint at a discovery when we're framing the opportunity. Now we actually want to tell the full discovery story. And a discovery story that I use is a 3 to 5 minute story that explains and outlines and adds context as to how you discovered what you're sharing on your presentation today. And it's super, super important to tell this, again, to add more context. Why should they care? Why should they listen to you? The discovery story accomplishes that. And I use a before, during, and after framework for this. So I talk about what I was doing before I made this discovery or decided to share what I'm sharing on the webinar. And then I talk a little bit and describe the moment I decided to do it, and then what I've done as a result. So if I've discovered a new coaching method, I would talk about maybe how I was struggling with something like anybody else. I will then describe my aha moment or the moment I decided to teach it. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the results. Maybe I got great results for myself. Maybe I've used it with others and got good results or those kind of things. That's the kind of framework I find to be very effective. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're talking about themselves or telling a story is that the story kind of is irrelevant to the topic at hand. We want our story, our discovery story, to add context to the sales narrative of our presentation, not take us on a detour away just to talk about ourselves randomly for a bit of time. Okay? So we've got the Intrigue Open. That's working very well to increase retention and bring people in. We've got the framing the new opportunity. We've got the discovery story. At this point, we're, let's say, 10 to 12 minutes into what will be a 45-minute to 60-minute presentation. Okay, so take the first 10 to 12 minutes. Give people enough context as to why they should care, and you will get more people bought in to your message. Now, the next section, which is arguably the most important section, besides framing the opportunity, is the content or the meat of your presentation. And the way I am doing it in 2025 is to use what I call a roadmap to results. So a roadmap to results is literally a 3, no more than 5-part framework, a visual framework that you walk people through to get the result that you are promising that you talked about in the first 10 to 12 minutes. Okay? So this is in essence a new path for them to walk. You're going to walk them through a new path in a compelling way. And there's a whole nuance on how to do this, talk about why it's important, what it is, what's involved. There's a lot of pieces to walking them through this in an effective way. But I find like a 25 to 30 minute tops content section that walks people through your roadmap to results is working very, very well to really scratch the itch in the right way as to how it works. Like, what have you discovered? Why is it so much better or such a new opportunity before? Too many people teach too much random, nice to know content on a sales presentation, and people may like the presentation, but they don't end up buying from you. There's a way to both delight and excite people on a webinar. That content section is super important. And I'm finding that a good, solid, well-positioned roadmap to results is a great way to get people excited and show them enough of a new path that they could then walk with you when we get to the last section of our webinar, which is our offer. And so that is the final section that I'm using. I call it your value stacked offer, right? And so that's your call to action or your offer section for your webinar, usually from about minute 40 or so to 50 to 55. You need about 10 minutes or so, I feel like, to go through a full, what I call a full and complete offer. And so that's what I do at this stage. And so there's 2 options at the end of a webinar for an offer. You could either try to book a call or have a conversation with them, or you could try to sell something directly. And so if I'm booking a call at the end of the webinar, there's a few things I want to do to make it value added, right? I want to name the call and position the call as a complimentary service. And then I usually will add a few benefits around the call. Could be a report they get for coming to the call. At the end of the call, it could be this or that. So like I was working with an SEO agency a while back, and we called, instead of just saying a free call, we called theirs the SEO growth audit. Okay? And we put a price on that. What would they charge for that audit? It's a complimentary service. And then we also had them print out a free report of the website's biggest inefficiencies that they could share. That was easy for them to do, as well as a keyword research tool, report for them. And that was super easy for them to do. And it helped dig up all the problems. And then they could just present the problems to the client on the call and say, would you like our help with it? Super effective. And again, it doesn't matter if you're in life coaching or B2B sales, there's ways for you to position that call so that it's more compelling instead of just a free call. Now, if you're selling something directly, maybe it's a course for $1,000 or a ticket to a workshop or a cohort or a group coaching program for a couple grand, and you're going to just sell it directly on the webinar, you'll want to make sure to not go on and on with bonuses, but have like 3 to 5 good resources that you can position around the core offer. So like one of the things that I do a couple times a year is I sell a $2,000 ticket to a 6-week cohort that I host. and people can work with me for 6 weeks. They get content, they get materials, they get all that kind of stuff. One of my favorite things to sell. Well, in addition to the 6 weeks, mine is on creating a webinar. I give them all kinds of additional resources to help them. I give them AI tools as a resource to sweeten the offer. I give them scripts that they can use. I give them pre-made slide decks. I give them some of my best email templates, etc., to make the outcome of creating and selling with a webinar easier for them to obtain. And again, doesn't matter if you're a life coach or if you're in B2B sales, you can enhance your offer with the right strategies here. And actually, that's the first thing I do with a client is we sit down, we look at their offer, we look at how they're positioning their offer, and we work on that. Then we build the content for the webinar, and then the framing of the opportunity and all those kind of things. We actually work backwards to build it. Start with the offer, then the content that seeds the offer. A lot of the selling happens in the content, and then the new opportunity, framing that up front. So those are the elements. That's the framework that I'm going to be using in 2025 and beyond. I'm always experimenting and testing, but that is a proven formula that I've been using to sell, again, 100K plus per webinar campaign when I'm using that. And so again, we start off by an Intrigue Open to hook people in. Then we go into framing the opportunity with the 3 Ds: desires, difficulties, discovery. We go into a discovery story, that 3 to 5 minute discovery story. Then we have the content or the roadmap to results, followed by the value stacked offer, whether you're booking a call or selling something directly. So that is what I'm using. You're welcome to model that and use that for all of your webinars. You'll have greater success. This is something I teach my students, and I hope you have found it valuable as well. If you'd like to see a free training that breaks down all of the steps of doing this in a deeper way, as well as see a demonstration of how my AI tools can help you write all of the components of your presentation for you to work with you, there's a link in the description to a free training you can sign up for free and watch that demonstration so that you can learn not only how to create a webinar, but how you could create it much faster with my specifically trained AI tools. Check that out in the description. That's it for this video. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe, leave a like. It helps the algorithm engage. Leave a comment below if you want that webinar or you have a question for me. And I look forward to making another video like this for you very soon. Take care for now.